All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have Nikki Miller and Nate Reck who are going to give our next presentation from JMT. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Leilani. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Just a quick little blurb about JMT Technology Group. We've been in business for a little over 30 years as the technology group, and we're part of the larger JMT, which is a transportation engineering firm. We do have a digital experience group who is responsible for a lot of the work we're going to be talking about today. So I want to make sure I give them their due, and I kind of wish they had been able to be here, but you're stuck with us. So just to kind of set expectations about what we're talking about augmented reality and virtual reality. So augmented reality is real world experience enhanced by virtual elements versus virtual reality, which is where you're in a fully immersive environment. And I'm sure some of you have played video games, with the VR headset, so you're quite familiar with VR. But we will show some examples in the corporate world or in the in the AEC world that are pretty cool. So Nate, I think you were going to talk about this part. Sorry,
No worries. So outside of a digital group, we also have a design center of excellence at JMT, which is responsible for a lot of the 3D Revit models, the digital transformation type aspect of what we do. And a lot of what they provide, we're then able to turn into, with our digital group, into the different types of reality that we talked about. I sit on, if anybody knows TRB, the Transportation Research Board, they have an annual conference in DC, and I sit on the AR/VR group, or now they call it XR because it's basically anything. So when we look at reality capture, we kind of look at four different places. We look at the aerial side, we look at the scan to BIM type setup, we look at mobile device scanning and detection in the field, and then we have 3D 360-degree imagery, which then we can turn into our like a virtual space thing, which we'll show here at the end of how we kind of share this data with the public for like DOTs like PennDOT and other aspects like Amtrak to look at. Here's what a new building's going to look like and give your feedback. It's a way to do public outreach in that sense. So there's different products out there in terms of how to process the data or view it. The big ones out there, of course, are Bentley's iTwin. You have vSight from Vegis, which is an Esri partner, and then Trimble's Sight Vision are the three that we kind of work with. You also have other viewers from other companies, but these are the three main ones that we dabble in. And then you get into the different devices that deal with the capture or the viewing. We have like the Apple devices. We have the orange one is from Faro. It's a SLAM device that we rent and use in the field. A lot for right now we're doing for school districts, buildings for a lot of their requirements to do indoor 3D capture. And then we also have the HoloLens down at the bottom to view, and the Apple Vision Pro as examples of some of the hardware out there to use. So
just as with GIS or application development, if you're going down the path or you want to do something with AR/VR, it's really important that you start with the end in mind. So understand, how is this data going to be used? That's going to inform, your data collection process and the tools you choose to visualize the information you collect. So we're going to talk about a few different use cases, and I'm going to start with the utility location and conflict detection. So really important, if you're planning to visualize utilities out in the field, you want as accurate and precise of data as possible. So ideally, you're dealing with surveyed features. And then you want to make sure you have elevation data or elevation values in your data as well. So in this example, we've got a engineering drawing. We've got our points that have been surveyed. We bring that into ArcGIS Pro. We can visualize it in 2D. And what you're seeing here are, I think it's fiber is the orangish yellow, and then water and sewer. And then out in the field, you can visualize that information. And in this example, we're showing the the just vSite tool to actually, look at what's in the ground. So you have, this is on an iPad. We've got a GPS attached to that. Again, really important to have good accuracy for the device that you're using to visualize, because you want to make sure it's showing you where you actually are, because you may have really great data, but if you take it out into the field and you don't have that tied to reality, then it's not super helpful. So this allows stakeholders to go out in the field, see what's there. If they're going to be planning a new line going in, where might they have conflicts, or if they're going to dig, what might they run into. And this is just another snapshot of it. So again, this is your augmented reality, because you're in the real world, but you have that those virtual elements that you're looking at. So whereas a typical marking of utilities, you see a paint line and that's it. In this instance, you have this device. You can go out in the field and see the entire length of the pipe. And then down here on the right, you can see a meter. So this is actual data that we were able to survey and then visualize in the field.
So when looking at the more construction side or the engineering side, which a lot of our folks do, and we support our engineering teammates with the ability to take the design plans, put them into a visual apparatus. So like that video there is Vince. He's head of our digital group. He was out in the field with the Apple iVision Pros on, and we were able to load up a design set in our parking lot and just kind of view through it. So you can be in the field looking at your design plans versus actual construction, which is a later slide, but just gives you the ability to take your actual plans, your as-built plans that are coming in, turn them into a 3D feature, and then be able to view them in the field in a virtual environment, or even just an augmented. So this just gives the example of that. Now, keep in mind that not everything is a one-to-one scale in this set. We have a lot of lessons learned over the past couple of years with this. There's a later slide that talks about with the slope of a device when you're moving it, what it looks like, those kind of things. But there's a lot of lessons learned. Now, in the bottom corner, we outfitted a couple of the aspects of the design and the actual construction with QR codes. So you could walk around with an iPad, it would scan the QR code and bring up the model for that area right there in the field. So now if you look at then how to look at other aspects or to take documentation or to capture it, we have a lot of folks in the field that are doing utility work, digging. So we'll give them the ability to scan that area as it's dug up, and then they cover it back over, and then they can take it back out in the field and see exactly what was in the ground because they scanned it. So they have a before and after type setup, but it also gives the ability then to tie it into your digital plans and overlay the imagery that you took and the scans you took into your CAD environment. So.
And you can then update your GIS to better
Right.
align with the scan because of how accurate it is.
Because we don't have I don't think we have the screen of it, but that middle one with the blue connector meter, forget what it is, but it's the ability it was surveyed when it was uncovered, and then, this guy right here is actually this here. So they're able to then move and fix the information accordingly and align it better, so.
So Nate, I think one thing that's
Yeah.
really nice about the scan is that, it's kind of like a picture that you guys are, I'm sure a lot of you have attachments in your GIS,
Mhm.
and it's, great information for your folks who are using it to be able to see what's going on. This is the same thing, you can essentially access the scan from within your GIS to visualize, what that feature actually looks like when it's uncovered.
Yep. So then being able to do construction confirmation in the field. So this, I talked about this a little earlier of having, you're out in the field, you're doing a construction inspection, you have the plan then in your device, look up and see how the construction is going and comparing it to the plan. Our folks use this a lot. as they're out doing their inspections. Then if you have it tied into some of your mobile GIS tools, then you can have feedback forms or place an issue. So Esri's GeoBIM product, which is basically an operations dashboard that takes in Adobe or Autodesk Cloud, Construct Cloud stuff, and you can see the models. You can then create a feature service that takes in issues. So this is very similar. You can have this out, click a spot, I need to update this, or here's my feedback, ships it into your GIS, and then you have it as for documentation purposes. But just being able to see what's happening, what was planned versus actual right there in your hands in the field is the true power of it. So, and that's what our groups are focused on, is being able to provide that and identifying issues in the field faster.
So for the use cases we just talked about, we do have some lessons learned. So when we're out scanning in the field, again, you're seeing the picture on the left is one of our analysts who's doing some scanning. It's a little difficult to see, but this whole area is red up here at the top. That means it's not getting scanned. So if you have a slope, you don't want to be angled up because the LiDAR is not going to work correctly. The reflectivity is not very good. So instead, making sure that you're always angled down when you're doing that scan. So that was one thing that we learned. And then also in the second example, it's a little tough to see in this picture, but this model does not line up exactly with where it is in the real world or where it should be. And so in this particular instance, I think we were using what's the Trimble? Sight vision. So I think we're using sight vision in this example, and it uses QR codes to place the model in reality. And there's always going to be some amount of drift when you're doing that. So especially if you've got a really large structure that you have for your model, when you're trying to look at it in the real world, it's probably not going to be exactly perfect. The V-Sight we found to be a little bit better, but still, nothing's going to be super exact. They're getting better and better. But it's still a powerful tool to be able to do those visualizations. So another use case is for using AR/VR for public outreach. So we got a few examples here. The one on the left is showing a model of a bridge, and it's kind of hard to see, but back here there's a 3D printout of the embankment, and so the user can hold the iPad up and sort of visualize what the model looks like with that 3D printout, and then they can turn off and on different aspects of the model. So it's just giving a better visualization for the end users, whether that's members of the public or if we were designing something for a DOT, to allow their stakeholders to review it and give some feedback. And then over here on the right, this is a driving simulator. So we're using gaming engines to overlay models with reality capture. And this is really good for visualizing like a new intersection. I think this one, we did a kind of a game that we associated with for a booth. But down here, this is a roundabout that was proposed. And you can actually, in the simulator, drive through the roundabout. You can choose whether you're a car or a tractor trailer, and see how that's going to work. And so it can help to identify issues, and again, give opportunities for additional feedback, whether it's from the DOT or the public. And even within our engineering team, the designers also use it to help collaborate amongst each other and maybe point out things that they didn't realize when they were doing the design. And here's one more. This is a virtual spaces, which is a solution that JMT developed. And this has been really helpful for public meetings, for folks who maybe can't make it and want to check it out on the website. So you can configure this in lots of different ways, but it plops you down into a virtual space and you can click through. And this one actually in the center has the BIM model that you can see what the actual station looks like that's being proposed. One other thing I wanted to point out is another use case that's kind of similar from the previous, is that you can use something like either the simulation, really the simulation for training. So AR/VR can be really good for training in confined spaces, for example. It's not something you want to actually go put someone out into, but they can experience what that's going to feel like and, how they have to operate. We're working with VDOT right now on some work in their tunnels, one of their mountain tunnels, and that's an area that they're looking at because they have a lot of turnover in staff. It's difficult to get out and do some of these training exercises in the tunnel. It's dangerous. And so instead using AR and VR to do those training simulations. And then I can talk about this one. I don't think we really discussed. So this is just another example of using, in this case, an Apple Vision Pro. So you can see Jamie, one of our developers here at the bottom. He's standing in a parking lot in Florida, and he's looking at this bus transfer station that JMT designed. And this is, again, just to demonstrate the power of these tools to help people visualize what a design is going to look like, whether they are on site at the location or if they are states away. And this is, again, a tool that could be used either for public involvement or to help our engineers collaborate with one another. So this space is constantly evolving, as I'm sure you all know. So we've been trying to stay up with all the latest tech and try out different tools. Nate mentioned, we've been working a lot with vSite, who owns VGIS. We've been looking at the Trimble products. There's lots of stuff out there, lots of shiny objects. But ultimately, if you are thinking about going down this path, you really want to make sure you're defining what your use cases are, then choosing the appropriate technology based on what you're trying to do, and making sure that your reality capture is good enough for what you then want to use the data for. What we're finding as we work with our engineers and inspectors to get these tools in their hands, you have to find those people who are champions for technology and who are willing to give this stuff a try, and showing them how it works, and then getting feedback from them and making changes based on the feedback that they're giving. And of course, make sure that you have some patience. Really, the AR VR tools themselves are kind of ahead of where the AEC industry is in terms of BIM models and digital twins. So we find a lot of our customers are really struggling with how do we create models of our existing infrastructure. Like the newly built stuff, yeah, we got that down. We're going to use Revit to design these things, and then take data from Revit and bring it into our asset management systems and bring it into our GIS. But when it comes to your existing buildings, it's a lot of work to go and figure out, okay, I did this scan to BIM, I have all this data, now what? You have to go out there and do a lot of validation, attribution of what is this pipe. There may be things that you can't see because it's behind a wall, figuring out how to pull that information in. So we're hoping, again, that AI could be something that helps to speed that process along, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, a couple last thoughts. I'm an asset management guy by trade, so if we look at facility management, for example, and you look at that bus station or bus depot, if once that's constructed and all of the interior stuff, the infrastructure is there for plumbing and those things, and it was captured, being able to handle your work orders easier, figure out where things are to go check if you have to do inspections on these things. If there's something in the wall that you need to know is there, you can basically see it there and walk around with it. We're piloting something like that now with one of our customers, plus we have some data at our house that we try to mess with all the time. But just that aspect, and then the training outreach has been a big one that we're finding a lot of use for. Like I said, clients like Pennsylvania DOT, Amtrak, and others, they're using that virtual spaces, and we can go back and put the QR code up that you guys can go look at it and check it out. It just allows for less public meeting time, and they can go around and look at things and put comments in and just get that experience without having to come to a meeting in that sense. So that's where that's being used. But just the tie-in to then indoors GIS, to your asset management systems, to your GIS and all those things, that's where ultimately it'll get. It's just AEC is pretty back here, the technology's up here. So that's what we're trying to work through and come up with those use cases. So put that back. If anybody wanted to see that. But yeah. Any questions?
I think we're ready for questions.
Yes.
using,
I always say Unity, but I don't think that's what
yeah, it is, they are using
It's
Unity.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
guys also use Unity for the Apple Vision Pro when you guys are visualizing?
Yes, I think they
Yes.
are. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Could you guys repeat that for?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the question was, what gaming engine are we using for some of this stuff? And it's the Unity engine. So it's used for the Apple Vision Pro stuff, but then also our virtual spaces piece.
But going off of that, how much of that is like the ArcGIS plugin into those gaming engines? Have you used those at all for these projects?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. I don't know exactly how much.
don't think
I'd
it's a
have to
lot.
ask our group. So.
Yeah, you said you were able to store the scanned attachments. Do you have to keep a separate, do you have to create a separate related table, or are you able to fit those into the allow attachments?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't
So-
think they're in the allow attachments.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think
a
it is
separate
either.
Reference
Yeah.
related feature.
Yeah, sorry.
Just one last thing. For one of the projects, maybe the bus stop or something like that,
Yeah.
can you give any idea of like the scope, like how many man hours were put into that? I know technology is decreasing it probably rapidly, but
I don't know.
hundreds, thousands?
I'll find out right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me find out right
I
now.
don't think it's, I think some
It's
of
just
the,
hard to- I would love to sell
Yeah, yeah.
some of the stuff, but
Sure.
you know, you gotta have a little bit of a scale or scope. to
Yep.
it.
yeah. Some of it is definitely the work of making sure that the model is, everything is right with the model so that when you display it, it's not all wonky and, you're seeing things in places where they shouldn't be. But yeah, I think we can find out and get you an answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, you talked about using like a high-quality GPS. Was that just the built-in equipment, or did you?
No, we actually have others that we use. I don't know all the brands that we use, but like Bad Elf makes one at different accuracies. We do have to get down to pretty like what 3 millimeter.
Yeah, I think you
Level,
can see on one of these
I
pictures.
don't know exactly the device.
Yeah, so
but
you can,
yeah,
this is a Trimble, I think it's a Trimble on this.
What about
This guy.
Apple? Like, how are you connecting this stuff to the GPS? I'm a little behind times on that.
So they're basically just USB plugins or the FireWire, the Lightning on an Apple device, and then you can register it with it, and it will use that. With Survey went through some of the tools instead of your internals.
Okay, so, yeah.
They're not wireless connections?
There are wireless
There are
connections.
ones, but
Yeah.
there's other ones that are hardwired. I know Bad Elf makes hardwired ones.
Most of what we use
Yeah.
at Bad Elf, we've got some Bad Elves, we've got some EOS.
Okay.
Arrows.
Yep.
And they're all Bluetooth connections.
Yeah.
Yep.
You put those on a survey rod and
Yep.
you get good antenna.
Yeah, there's always new ones every day coming out.
It's a lot of flux.
Yeah.
Is the electrical line application there, how accurate is the AR?
I think it's, from what Nick has said, like 4 to 5 feet from where it is. Yeah. And again, that's, I think, both a function of the survey data as well as the, when you take the iPad out and you're visualizing it, what GPS you have on that.
And some of the questions we don't know the answers to, so we'll get them. That's what I'm trying to do right now. But so if we don't know the answer, it's our team has it.